Everybody, this is Dustin Puryear with Giant Rocket Ship. We're doing our regular webcast, office hours for Autotask. And so I'm going to follow my standard agenda. The first thing is for our customers that are viewing any updates that we have. And so one of the things you'll notice is we're going to have a much faster response inside the dashboard, inside of Autotask. We've made some adjustments along with the Autotask team to make sure everything flows very quickly. It was fast before, but now it should be a very smooth experience. Now let's kind of move forward to what I want to talk about today with Autotask. So in office hours for today, we're going to go over how to tie invoices to the work. So one point of confusion, particularly for new Autotask shops, is how do you ensure that an invoice matches a specific quote? And we actually have a really good article on that, and I'm going to bring that up in a different window. But let's see, giantrocketship.com, purchase order. The best way to do that, and it's not always the possible for you, but the best way to do that is to use a purchase order. And again, we do have a really good article on that. I recommend that you go to our website and read through it. But basically, what you want to do is you want to tie the projects, the charges, and the tickets in with the purchase order number or some type of unique identifying number. And then when you do that, Autotask will automatically create an invoice specific to that purchase order number. By far the best way to do it, most standard, the way that Autotask will talk to you about it if you have questions with them. So what I want to do is I want to walk you through what that looks like. Now, the struggle with purchase orders is not all of your customers use purchase orders, right? And so there's a solution for that. In fact, at my own MSP, where I ran the shop for 20 years, a lot of times our customers did not have a PO. And so what we did instead was we used our quote number as the PO. What's important here is that you're always using a unique number that's unique across all of your accounts and all of your work, right? And so I'm going to show you what that looks like. Now, I want to be clear is if you're using, there's a module in Autotask for purchase orders, for sales orders, it is not related to that other than being called a purchase order. That system is for your purchase orders with your vendors. But when I say purchase order here, I'm talking about your customer's purchase order or a quote number. So we used QuoteWorks at the time. And so we would have a quote that would start with like PURQ 5531. And so we would use that. And so let's go through so you can see what the solution is. And again, the problem we're solving is how do you tie multiple items into a single unique invoice? And so let's go ahead and create some work here. Random ticket. And it doesn't matter. And I'll just put whatever. There you go. And so what I'm doing, I'm going to create a ticket here. And then in the ticket, I'm going to show you how to use that purchase order field to really properly organize your data here. And let's just do a grab and go. This is rocket ship related. And so that's just going to give it to me and then kick off the actual work on it. And so notice I've kind of organized, or this might be the default, but usually what you'll want to do is you'll want to organize your tickets to where you have a billing section, and then you're going to put your PO in there. And again, if you don't have a PO from the customer, that's okay. Use your quote number. So let's say that you have a quote number, and again, the quote, whatever you use here should be unique across all customers. Let's call it quote 123. Right, and so you want to have a standard here. So let's call it Giant Rocket Ship quote. Let's just say that's our convention. And so now I'm going to go ahead and save this. And this is like the unique identifier that's going to map across everything in Autotask. And in fact, I can go ahead and add a charge here. And what you should notice is it even pre-fills the order number here. Now, I want you to be aware of this internal PO number, internal invoice number. These are not related. This is our internal PO that we're going to be using with our vendors, not related to what we're trying to solve here. This field is your customer supplied quote number or purchase order number or your quote number. And so we're going to leave that blank. Actually, let's go ahead and put some good data in here. We'll just do something random. And that way you can kind of see how this works. This is a new server. It only costs us $35. This is a mega server, 2000. The best we could possibly get. All right, so now we have this, and we could create some time entries as well. And so let's see here. And so notice we could add this time entry. I'm not going to because I don't feel like approving timesheets, but we could do this. This also would be using the PO on the ticket. Now, what's cool is watch what happens when I go to approve and post. Right, charges and charge date is just today. And notice here, internal PO, I don't know why it shows that because nobody ever really uses that all that much. So let's just do purchase order. And I just want you to see what this looks like, purchase order number. Notice this is going to have our purchase order number. And also, again, if we had time on the ticket, it would also have this purchase order number. And what's really cool is we can go create a project task, project charges. We can put all of this, contracts, we can tie it all together with the purchase order number. And that's how you group different. I meant to click approve, click search, we'll bring it back up. But what we're doing here, we can tie in all the different parts of Autotask in our billing so that we have something that's coming out of a project, something maybe out of a recurring contract, something out of a ticket, and yet we're going to force them into a single invoice that's not used for anything else. It's only going to be used for this purchase order. And so I'm going to click approve and post. Watch what happens. I'm going to go to invoice items to invoice, and look, see what happens here. So now it's grouped this into an invoice. I'm going to click preview, and we'll let it spin for a couple of seconds. What's really important here is this is the invoice unique to that PO. We got a little bit of a problem here. Invoice number preview, invoice date, right? We're missing the PO number, right? And again, the way we did it at my MSP was if the customer didn't have a PO, our standard was, hey, customer, we're going to put our quote number in if you don't support POs. And by the way, be very careful with purchase orders, right? There's those customers that are really small and they want to just create an Excel purchase order, but a purchase order is a legal entity. It's something that gives you special rights and collections. You don't want to just let anybody give you a purchase order, right? A purchase order is a specific form with language on the purchase order, and so always be clear of that. Okay, so what we want to do now is notice we didn't have the purchase order on there. So yeah, it does tie it, and in our accounting system, it's going to tie it, but it's not really showing us or the customer the information we want everybody to be clear on. So let's go ahead and customize our invoice to show that information. So again, what we've done now is we've tied together as many items as we want, whether it's tickets, projects, black hours, whatever. And we're doing that with the purchase order. But now what we want to do is we want to update the invoice to show the purchase order, or in our situation, the quote number from the customer. And so notice it's not even showing up here. Right, we're going to edit this puppy, and then we're going to put, let's see. Now, I always had struggles with editing this. The form editor is not that great. So what I would do normally is I would actually go edit this in a HTML editor, get it all nice and pretty, and then populate it back. Don't have time for that, so we're just going to include the purchase order here, and it's gonna be a little bit ugly, but you'll see what I'm trying to get to. And let's see here. Oh, that's right. They here they're not giving us the drop down with the placeholders. And so I think when I did this originally, I had to figure it out. And so um let's take a guess. Invoice, purchase order. We want that to show. And unfortunately, we are doing the old spin. I'm gonna their test lab, basically where you can get it your own extra tenant. And so it's always a little bit slow. And so let's see what happens. Let's see if I broke it. Does not include that. And so customer default. That's not what we want. I think I edited the Autotask default. Oh, that's not it. And so what we want to do, we want to go figure out, let's go ahead and work through this. And so let's do customer default this time. And edit template properties, and it's going to be here. I was hoping they had the placeholders. And so what we're gonna do, and this is just normal troubleshooting, right? And what I like to do is I don't like to pause it when I'm troubleshooting. I like to actually work through it so that you can see how I solve these things. I've been using Autotask for quite a while. Definitely have helped some other Autotask shops. And so what I found was helpful was sometimes just honestly working through the troubleshooting so you can reproduce it. And let's see if they can find that text and then invoice template. And what we're looking for again is what's the keywords that they want us to use here. Saying it invoice template. And so what we're going to do is we're going to look through here, top of invoice. There we go. List of Autotask variables. Well, goodness, they're going to make me open a spreadsheet. And so let's see here. Just order. What we're looking for is the invoice purchase, boom, right there. That's what we want. The invoice purchase order number. Oh, I was so close. I put purchase order, not purchase order number. Major regrets right now. And so, so let's click OK. Again, this is going to be super ugly, and I'm OK with that right now. I think we did customer default. So let's see what happens if we choose customer default. And that's our invoice. And let's see what happens here. Notice my very ugly, of course, we'd want to format that much better, but notice it now includes that unique identifier. And again, this works inside of projects and everything. So I could have project charges, block hour charges, all tied to this unique number. And so every month when I ran these charges, they would go in their own unique invoice. And I'd use some other tricks. For example, if we were billing for recurring items like subscriptions and they didn't have a PO number, what I would use I would use a common identifier for that category. So let's say that you wanted to call it SaaS, any type of recurring cloud resell activity. You can put that on a contract that has the purchase order number of SaaS, SaaS, or subscription. And then that's how you carve out that billing into its own unique invoice every single month without having to do it manually, right? Makes it much faster. So again, Dustin Puryear, founder, Giant Rocket Ship. I just worked through, including the troubleshooting, how to carve out invoices for specific charges to your customers using the purchase order field. I hope you found that helpful. Thank you.